Do you remember wandering through department stores that felt like a world of their own? The ones where every aisle held surprises, bargains, and a little bit of magic that made shopping an event? Back in the 1970s, these stores weren't just places to buy things, they were community hubs, family destinations, and landmarks in their own right. Today, many have vanished, but their memories linger, and it's time to take a nostalgic trip down retail history. Woolworth's the original five and dime. If there was ever a store that embodied the spirit of everyday America in the 20th century, it was Woolworth's. Long before big box giants or online shopping carts, Woolworth's was the place where a few coins in your pocket could buy something meaningful. Founded in the late 1800s, its heyday truly stretched into the mid-20th century, with the 1970s marking both a peak in cultural recognition and the beginning of a long farewell. By then, every mall worth its air-conditioned space seemed to have a Woolworth's tucked inside, and every main street in America was anchored by one of its red-lettered storefronts. The magic of Woolworth's was its accessibility. You didn't need to be wealthy to shop there, and that was the point. For just a dime or less, you could pick up toys, sewing notions, candy, or that all-important pair of socks. And let's not forget the legendary lunch counter. A grilled cheese and a fountain soda never tasted better than when perched on a spinning stool, watching a uniformed waitress ring up orders with a smile. For many children, it was the first place they learned the thrill of spending their allowance. For adults, it was a stop for necessities without the pressure of luxury price tags. By the 1970s, Woolworth's was both comfortingly familiar and slightly old-fashioned, still drawing crowds while newer competitors nipped at its heels. Discount chains and shopping malls began changing the landscape, but Woolworth's lingered as a memory-making place. It was where school supplies were bought, first records were discovered in the music aisle, and holiday decorations sparkled in crowded displays. Today, though its doors have long since closed, Woolworth's remains a symbol of community and simplicity, a reminder of a time when shopping felt less like a chore and more like a small-town ritual. Sears, where America shopped. If Woolworth's was the dime store of the people, then Sears was the empire. In the 1970s, no other retailer carried the kind of cultural weight that Sears did. Its catalogs alone were an American institution. Those massive wish books that arrived in the mail each fall were as much a part of the holiday season as tinsel and mistletoe. Kids would dog-ear pages with bikes, dolls, and toys circled in red pen, while parents skimmed sections of tools, appliances, and clothing, quietly making mental notes. Sears wasn't just a store, it was the marketplace of dreams, bound in glossy paper and delivered to every doorstep. Step into a Sears during the 1970s and you found a one-stop wonderland. You could buy a washer and dryer, a winter coat, a lawnmower, a diamond ring, and grab a set of craftsman tools on your way out. Need to refurnish your living room? Kenmore appliances and furniture sets waited in tidy showrooms. Thinking of buying a house? Sears had literally been in that business too, selling entire kit homes through the mail in earlier decades. By the time of disco and bell-bottoms, Sears was less about house kits and more about outfitting the American middle class from head to toe. What set Sears apart was its promise of reliability. Kenmore and Craftsman became household names not just because they were sold in every Sears, but because they worked, they lasted, and they became shorthand for quality. Families trusted Sears in the same way they trusted their local bank or church. It was part of the fabric of life. But even as it thrived in the 1970s, Seeds of change were being planted. Competitors were leaner, flashier, and cheaper. Yet in its prime, Sears was still the king of the retail world, where America truly shopped, dreamed, and built its suburban life. Montgomery Ward, the mail-order giant. Before Amazon Prime deliveries and next-day shipping, there was Montgomery Ward. In fact, long before the word online meant anything beyond a clothesline, Montgomery Ward was teaching Americans how to shop without ever stepping foot in a store. Founded in the 19th century, it rose to power through the simple, brilliant idea of the mail-order catalog. By the 1970s, though its golden age was behind it, the Ward's name still carried weight in towns across America, a reminder of how one company made the entire country its marketplace. The Montgomery Ward catalog was legendary. It was thick enough to double as a booster seat at Grandma's table, and inside were hundreds of pages filled with everything you could imagine: fashions, farm equipment, furniture, and more. For isolated rural families, this catalog was a lifeline. In places where the nearest big city was hours away, Ward's brought the world to your doorstep through the local post office. By the time the 1970s rolled around, the catalog still had its place, though television advertising and shopping malls were beginning to pull in younger generations with brighter lights and louder jingles. But Ward's was more than paper dreams. It had brick-and-mortar stores too, many of which became suburban staples in sprawling shopping centers. Families would stop by on Saturdays to browse appliances or pick out back-to-school clothes, often with kids begging to linger in the toy aisles. Like Sears, Montgomery Ward also carried its own brands, and its reputation was built on making household essentials affordable for the working class. By the disco decade, the store was already struggling to keep up with faster, flashier competitors. But even as it faded, Montgomery Ward left behind a powerful legacy. The idea that shopping could reach every corner of America, no matter how remote. In its heyday, it wasn't just a store. It was a connection to the wider world, folded neatly into catalog pages and delivered with the morning mail. J.C. Penney, from catalogs to clothing racks? If Sears was the king of middle-class shopping and Montgomery Ward the mail-order pioneer, J.C. Penney was the steady, dependable neighbor who always seemed to have just what you needed. By the 1970s, J.C. Penney had become a household name, bridging the gap between the old-fashioned catalog era and the shiny new world of mall culture. Its stores were everywhere, anchoring suburban shopping centers with their sensible mix of clothing, housewares, and dependable service. Much like Sears and Ward's, J.C. Penney built its empire on catalogs. Families across America relied on those glossy pages for school clothes, linens, and even drapes to match the avocado green kitchens of the time. But unlike its rivals, J.C. Penney leaned especially hard into fashion. Walking into a J.C. Penney store in the 1970s meant racks filled with polyester suits, wide-collared shirts, and dresses in patterns bold enough to make your eyes water. If you needed bell-bottoms or a leisure suit for Saturday night, Penney's had you covered at a price that didn't break the bank. But it wasn't just about fashion. J.C. Penney also carried its share of household goods and small appliances, with a focus on being accessible to the average American family. What set it apart, though, was its reputation for customer service. Employees were trained to treat shoppers with respect and courtesy, and for many families, Penney's was considered a step up from discount chains without straying into luxury pricing. By the 1970s, the company had mastered the art of balancing catalog orders with in-store shopping, a key factor in helping it thrive during a decade when retail was shifting toward the suburban mall. Parents trusted it, kids found what they wanted in its pages, and teens saw it as the first place to shop independently. Today, JCPenney may be fighting to hold on in a digital world, but in its 1970s heyday, it was the perfect middle ground, practical, stylish, and reliable, a department store that felt like it belonged to everyone. Kmart, the Blue Light Special. If the 1970s had a retail soundtrack, somewhere in the background you'd hear the announcement, "Attention Kmart shoppers!" Those 4 words could stop people in their tracks because they were always followed by the promise of a blue light special. A flashing blue police-style siren would be rolled out to a particular aisle, drawing bargain hunters like moths to a flame. It was a spectacle, part marketing gimmick, part treasure hunt, and it worked. Kmart wasn't just a store, it was an experience. By the 1970s, Kmart had become one of the most recognizable names in American retail. Affordable, accessible, and suburban to its core, it thrived in shopping centers where middle-class families were flocking. Walking into Kmart meant wide aisles lined with just about everything: clothing, home goods, toys, electronics, even automotive supplies. It was the place where you could buy a pack of tube socks, a Barbie dream house, and a set of new tires, all in one trip. For many families, it was a Saturday ritual. Piling into the car for a trip to Kmart and maybe a stop at the in-store cafeteria for a cheap but satisfying meal. The blue light specials weren't just fun. They symbolized the very identity of Kmart. Shopping there felt like being part of a community, with strangers hurrying down aisles together to chase the latest surprise deal. And in an era before constant sales and online flash deals, the concept felt thrilling. It was frugality mixed with excitement, making bargain shopping something to brag about rather than hide. In the 1970s, Kmart was at its peak, the ultimate one-stop shop for working families looking for value without sacrificing choice. Long before Walmart and Target muscled their way onto the scene, Kmart was the big player. Its red K logo and flashing blue light became icons of a generation. A reminder that saving money could be just as exciting as spending it. Grant's, W.T. Grant, bargains on every aisle. Long before the big box titans took over suburbia, there was W.T. Grant, known simply as Grant's to most shoppers. By the 1970s, Grant's stores were scattered across America, promising affordable prices on just about everything a family might need. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't glamorous, but it was dependable. And for working-class households, that counted every penny. That mattered more than neon signs or trendy displays. Grant's built its reputation on bargains, and for decades it delivered. Stepping into a Grant's in the disco decade meant aisles stocked with clothing, toys, household goods, and even small appliances. Kids made a beeline for the toy section, often hoping to leave with a new board game or Matchbox car. Parents, meanwhile, hunted down affordable fashions or picked through seasonal sales. It wasn't unusual to see shoppers flipping through racks of polyester shirts or dresses that mimicked higher-end department store styles at a fraction of the cost. Grant's managed to capture the feeling that everyone deserved nice things, even if they couldn't pay top dollar for them. But Grant's wasn't just about low prices. It was also about accessibility. Many stores were located in downtown areas or in smaller suburban shopping plazas, making them easy to reach for families who didn't have the time or gas money to drive to larger city centers. For countless communities, Grant's was the go-to stop for everyday essentials, offering convenience and affordability wrapped into one. Unfortunately, the 1970s were also the beginning of the end for Grant's. Fierce competition from Kmart, Sears, and newer discount chains made it harder for the store to stand out. Its credit program, once seen as customer-friendly, became a financial liability. By the middle of the decade, cracks were showing, and by 1976, W.T. Grant had declared bankruptcy, one of the largest retail collapses of its time. Still, for those who remember wandering its aisles, Grant's lives on in memory as the store where bargains were plentiful, Saturdays were simple, and families could shop without breaking the bank. Zayre, the discount store with style. If the 1970s had a department store that felt just a little groovier than the rest, it was Zayre. Born in Massachusetts and spreading across much of the country, Zayre made its name by combining the appeal of discount shopping with a flair for style. Where Kmart had the blue light and Grants leaned into bargains, Zayre promised something more: low prices without sacrificing a sense of fun. It was the store that tried to make discount shopping feel just a touch cooler. Walking into a Zayre in the disco decade was like stepping into a retail time capsule of the era. Bright colors, bold signage, and flashy displays greeted shoppers as they strolled down wide aisles stocked with clothing, electronics, toys, and housewares. The fashion racks were especially memorable. Polyester slacks, paisley shirts, and platform shoes that mirrored runway looks, only priced for the everyday family budget. Zayre leaned into the 1970s aesthetic so much that its stores practically buzzed with that decade's energy. What really set Zayre apart was its ability to market itself as the discount store with personality. Advertising campaigns often played up its sense of flair, and shoppers responded to the idea that they could save money without feeling like they were compromising on style. For many families, Zayre was the place to pick up back-to-school clothes, grab the latest toy fad, or refresh the house with affordable home goods, all while feeling like they were part of something current and fashionable. By the late 1970s, Zayre was expanding rapidly, becoming a familiar sight in malls and suburban plazas. But that growth would eventually spread the chain too thin, and the competition from Kmart, Target, and Walmart proved fierce. Still, for a shining moment in the 1970s, Zayre represented the perfect blend of thrift and trend. It was the store where disco met discounts, where style didn't have to come with a luxury price tag. Ames' small-town staple. For countless small towns across America, especially in the Northeast and Midwest, Ames was more than just a store. It was the store. Founded in Massachusetts, Ames grew rapidly after World War II, and by the 1970s had become a dependable fixture in communities that larger retailers often overlooked. While Sears and Kmart planted their flags in suburban malls, Ames thrived in smaller markets, quietly becoming a household name where it mattered most: the everyday lives of working families. Ames stores were practical to the core. You didn't go there expecting high fashion or luxury brands, but you could count on finding affordable clothing, home goods, toys, and seasonal items neatly packed into its aisles. Back-to-school shopping at Ames was a rite of passage for many kids. New notebooks, sneakers, and backpacks all piled into the cart while parents appreciated the prices. And when the holidays rolled around, Ames became a wonderland of budget-friendly decorations, gifts, and toy sales that gave even the leanest family budgets a little stretch. Part of Ames's charm was its accessibility. Located in smaller towns and less glamorous shopping centers, it wasn't trying to compete with big city glitz. Instead, it filled a gap, giving communities without a mall a place to buy what they needed without a long drive. Shoppers came to know it as reliable, unpretentious, and refreshingly straightforward. You didn't need to chase a flashing blue light or clip endless coupons. at Ames, bargains were built in. By the 1970s, Ames was growing fast, and for many families it was the heart of their retail routine. It may not have had the spectacle of Kmart or the catalog power of Sears, but Ames succeeded by simply showing up where others didn't. For those who remember, it was the small-town staple, a place where affordability met familiarity, and where shopping trips felt less like an event and more like a comfortable part of everyday life. Korvette's the discount department store pioneer. Before Kmart, before Walmart, and long before Amazon, there was Korvette's, officially E.J. Korvette, though hardly anyone bothered with the initials. Founded in the post-war boom, Korvette's blazed the trail for the kind of discount department store that would later dominate American shopping. By the 1970s, its glory days were fading, but the name still carried weight, especially in big cities and suburbs where shoppers remembered its daring approach to retail. What made Korvette special was its boldness. At a time when many department stores relied on prestige and tradition, Korvette's went the other way, slashing prices, offering deep discounts, and proudly courting the bargain hunter. It broke retail rules, and in doing so, won over millions of customers. Shoppers flocked to its stores for everything from fashion and appliances to records and housewares, often leaving with more than they planned because the deals were simply too good to ignore. In fact, Korvette's became especially famous for its music section. For many in the 1960s and 70s, the store was the place to buy LPs at unbeatable prices, turning teenagers into loyal customers for life. Walking through a Korvette's in the 1970s felt a little chaotic but thrilling. Bright signs shouting discounts, aisles packed with merchandise, the sense that you were in on a secret the fancier stores didn't want you to know. It was retail with energy, a place where bargain hunting felt like a sport. Yet by the disco decade, the very model Korvette's pioneered was being perfected by others. Kmart, Target, and Walmart were bigger, leaner, and expanding faster. Korvette's struggled to keep up, and by the end of the 70s, its decline was obvious. Still, its legacy endures. Korvette's proved that discount shopping could be not only profitable but wildly popular, and in many ways, it laid the foundation for the modern retail landscape. For those who remember, it was the store that dared to be different, and for a time, it changed everything. Alexander's, New York's fashion bargain hub. In the bustling heart of New York City and its suburbs, Alexander's was more than just a department store. It was an event. By the 1970s, this chain had already secured its reputation as the go-to spot for New Yorkers who wanted to look fashionable without draining their wallets. Situated in prime locations, often near busy intersections and transit hubs, Alexander's drew in waves of shoppers with the promise of style, value, and that uniquely urban energy. The secret to Alexander's success was its sharp eye for fashion trends. Unlike some of its slower-moving competitors, Alexander's was quick to stock what was hot, from mod-inspired dresses to the polyester prints and bold colors of the disco decade. Teenagers and young professionals could pick up the latest look for far less than at the high-end Manhattan boutiques. It was a democratization of fashion, style within reach of the everyday shopper. Walking through an Alexander's in the 70s felt like stepping into a whirlwind of racks bursting with clothing that was current, affordable, and often a little daring. But it wasn't just the clothes that drew people in. Alexander's was a true department store, offering everything from linens and furniture to toys and housewares, all priced with the same discount-minded philosophy. It became a Saturday ritual for many families, parents hunting for bargains, while kids begged for a stop in the toy department. The chain's massive flagship near the Queensboro Bridge, with its unmistakable bold signage, was a landmark in its own right. Of course, being a New York staple meant that Alexander's was woven into the cultural fabric of the city. It was the backdrop of shopping trips, holiday rushes, and back-to-school scrambles. By the late 1970s, though, competition from larger national chains began to squeeze it, and the glitz of mall shopping lured younger generations away. Still, for New Yorkers of a certain age, Alexander's remains a vivid memory, a fashion bargain hub that let everyday people step out onto the streets of the city feeling like they belonged on the runway. Gimbels rivaled a Macy's. If Macy's was the polished face of American department stores, then Gimbels was the scrappy rival that kept it on its toes. By the 1970s, Gimbels had already been sparring with Macy's for decades, a rivalry so famous it inspired movies like Miracle on 34th Street. With its massive flagship stores in New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Milwaukee, Gimbels wasn't just a store. It was an institution, one that proudly wore its identity as the people's department store. Walking into a Gimbels during the 1970s was to step into a place that balanced grandeur with accessibility. The displays were vast, the selections wide, and the pricing often aggressive. While Macy's leaned into prestige, Gimbels leaned into value. It was where middle-class families could shop for clothing, housewares, furniture, and toys without feeling out of place or out of budget. Its promotional flair helped too. Gimbels was known for sales events that drew massive crowds, the kind of bustling shopping scenes that defined downtown life before malls fully took over. The rivalry with Macy's, of course, gave Gimbels a kind of cultural cachet that most competitors never achieved. If Macy's was the uptown sophisticate, Gimbels was the downtown worker bee. It didn't mind being seen as more practical and less glamorous because that's exactly what its customers appreciated. Many shoppers found Gimbels warmer, less intimidating, and more approachable than its glitzy rival across the street. By the disco decade, however, the tide was turning. Suburban malls were pulling customers away from the flagship stores, and Gimbels struggled to reinvent itself fast enough. While it remained beloved in its core cities, the retail revolution of the 70s and 80s slowly eroded its once strong footing. Still, for those who remember, Gimbels was more than just the other store next to Macy's. It was a place where families bought school clothes, where holiday shopping was an event, and where value and tradition met in the aisles of one of America's most iconic rivals. Bonwit Teller, glamour for the masses. In an era when department stores defined not just shopping but lifestyle, Bonwit Teller carved out a niche all its own, glamour that everyday people could touch. By the 1970s, Bonwit Teller was a name synonymous with chic fashion and stylish living, positioned somewhere between the lofty heights of luxury retailers and the approachable bargains of discount chains. For women in particular, it was a destination, a place to browse racks of elegant dresses, tailored suits, and accessories that felt straight out of the fashion magazines without carrying the same intimidating price tags. Founded in the late 19th century and based in New York City, Bonwit Teller had long been associated with sophistication. But unlike exclusive boutiques, it prided itself on accessibility. In the 1970s, its stores reflected the mood of the decade: bold colors, flowing fabrics, and a touch of disco sparkle. shoppers could expect to find name brand designers alongside house labels, allowing middle-class customers to feel they were stepping into a more glamorous world without leaving their budgets behind. The store's window displays, especially at its Fifth Avenue flagship, were legendary, artful, imaginative, and often trend-setting. For passers-by, even those who never stepped inside, Bonwit Teller was part of the visual theater of New York shopping. Inside, it wasn't just about clothes. Cosmetics counters, perfume, and accessories added to the feeling of indulgence. For many, a shopping trip to Bonwit Teller was aspirational, a small slice of the high life within reach. But like so many mid-century icons, Bonwit Teller faced new pressures as the 1970s unfolded. Malls were reshaping the retail landscape, and competitors both above and below its price range chipped away at its customer base. Still, during its heyday, Bonwit Teller managed something rare. It democratized glamour, offering fashion with just enough gloss and sparkle to make shoppers feel they belonged to a more stylish, exciting world without ever needing a Fifth Avenue bank account. Hudson's Detroit's Grand Palace. In the heart of Detroit, Hudson's wasn't merely a department store, it was a symbol of the city itself. By the 1970s, its massive flagship on Woodward Avenue towered over downtown, earning a reputation as one of the largest department stores in the world. For Detroiters, Hudson's was more than shopping. It was theater, a place where families could spend an entire afternoon wandering multiple floors of clothing, housewares, toys, and luxury goods, all under one grand roof. The store's appeal lay in its breadth and elegance. Women could browse the latest dresses and accessories, teenagers found the trendiest jeans or jackets, and children were drawn to the toy section, a wonderland of games and dolls. Homeowners could shop for furniture, kitchen gadgets, and linens, while the store's famed restaurants and cafes offered a welcome break from the bustle. Hudson's wasn't just practical, it offered an experience. Its holiday window displays were legendary, drawing crowds from across the region to marvel at sparkling scenes that made downtown feel magical. Hudson's also held a special place in the community. It hosted events, parades, and fashion shows, and many families marked milestones there: first jobs, first purchases, or celebratory shopping trips. Its elevators and escalators, grand staircases, and elegant decor made even a routine shopping trip feel special. In an era before suburban malls dominated, Hudson's brought sophistication, variety, and convenience together in a single, unforgettable location. By the late 1970s, suburban expansion and retail competition began to challenge Hudson's dominance, yet its legacy remained unmatched. Detroiters who grew up roaming its aisles remember a store that combined grandeur with accessibility, luxury with everyday shopping needs. Hudson's wasn't just a department store, it was a grand palace, a city landmark, and for decades, the beating heart of Detroit's retail life. Marshall Field's elegance in every aisle. In Chicago, Marshall Field's was more than a department store. It was an institution, a symbol of sophistication and civic pride that defined downtown shopping for generations. By the 1970s, it had already cemented its reputation as a place where elegance met practicality, offering a vast selection of clothing, housewares, furniture, and specialty goods under one opulent roof. Field's flagship on State Street was a destination in itself, drawing locals and visitors alike into a world of carefully curated merchandise and polished service. What set Marshall Field's apart was its commitment to experience. The store felt more like a boutique palace than a mere retail space. Grand staircases, gleaming floors, and impeccably arranged displays created an atmosphere that elevated even routine shopping trips into memorable outings. Fashion-conscious shoppers could browse high-quality apparel and accessories, while home decorators found everything from fine china to luxurious linens. The store's holiday traditions, particularly the elaborate window displays and the iconic walnut room Christmas tree, became a cultural touchstone for Chicago families, blending retail with citywide celebration. Despite its elegance, Fields wasn't intimidating. Prices ranged to accommodate a broad spectrum of customers, making sophistication accessible without alienating the everyday shopper. Parents brought children for special treats. Teens perused the latest fashion trends, and families celebrated milestones, all while enjoying the warmth and reliability that the store exuded. By the disco decade, Marshall Fields had navigated the rise of suburban malls and discount retailers by doubling down on its core strengths: quality, service, and experience. For many, the store symbolized the best of American department stores, a place where shopping was both practical and indulgent, efficient and enchanting. Even today, Marshall Fields lingers in memory as a Chicago landmark, a store where elegance truly extended to every aisle. Jordan Marsh, New England's pride. For New Englanders, Jordan Marsh wasn't just another department store, it was their store. By the 1970s, this Boston-born retailer had already been serving the region for well over a century, and it carried with it a sense of local pride that national chains could never quite match. To shop at Jordan Marsh was to participate in a New England tradition, whether you were hunting down back-to-school clothes, splurging on a new sofa, or simply strolling through its sprawling Boston flagship with its elegant escalators and bustling holiday displays. What made Jordan Marsh stand out was its ability to balance grandeur with warmth. Its stores were expansive and modern, yet never felt cold or impersonal. Families could browse clothing racks filled with the latest fashions. Think polyester slacks, wide collars, and plenty of plaid for the disco decade. Then head upstairs to shop linens, furniture, and fine china. It was the kind of place where a single trip could outfit your wardrobe, decorate your home, and stock your kitchen cabinets, all without feeling like you had entered a faceless big box warehouse. And then there was the blueberry muffins. Yes, muffins. Jordan Marsh's bakery inside the Boston flagship became legendary, drawing customers in for sweet, oversized treats that were almost as famous as the store itself. For many Bostonians, a trip downtown wasn't complete without a stop at Jordan Marsh for both shopping and a bite of that soft, sugar-topped muffin. By the 1970s, Jordan Marsh embodied the spirit of New England retail: dependable, stylish, and distinctly regional. While chains like Sears and J.C. Penney spread nationally, Jordan Marsh clung proudly to its identity as a local institution. It was woven into the holidays, into family outings, into the rhythm of city life. Today, it exists only in memory, but for New Englanders who grew up in its aisles, Jordan Marsh remains a point of pride, proof that sometimes the best department store is the one that feels like home. Hill's Department Store, toy heaven for kids. If you were a kid in the 1970s and your parents said, "We're going to Hill's," it was better than hearing you were going to the amusement park. Hill's wasn't just a department store, it was a wonderland, especially when you were small enough to see the toy aisles as endless, glittering avenues of possibility. Known across the Midwest and Northeast, Hill's carved out its identity by being family-focused, practical for parents, and utterly magical for children. Hills sold the usual department store staples: clothing, housewares, seasonal goods, but its true claim to fame was the toy department. It was enormous, colorful, and stocked with the kind of treasures kids dreamed about. Board games stacked to the ceiling, dolls in neat rows, toy trucks big enough to climb into, and eventually shelves filled with Star Wars figures that practically flew off the racks. Back-to-school season might have brought families into the store for new jeans and notebooks, but the kids always knew where the real action was. The experience of shopping at Hills in the 1970s was about more than just what you bought. The chain was known for its cafeteria-style snack bar, where families could grab a hot dog, popcorn, or an icy before or after shopping. That little treat turned a trip for household necessities into something special, a mini family outing that everyone looked forward to. Parents appreciated the low prices and reliable selection, while kids built their holiday wish lists right there in the aisles. By the 1970s, Hills had perfected this formula, making itself the go-to stop for affordable shopping with a dash of joy. Its slogan, "Hills is where the toys are," wasn't just advertising, it was truth. For a generation of children, the store wasn't remembered for its socks or appliances, but for the sheer thrill of walking down those toy aisles. Long after its closure, Hills lives on in memory as the department store that made kids believe in magic, at least until the checkout line. Caldor Affordable Chic. If you grew up in the Northeast during the 1970s, chances are you knew Caldor. It wasn't flashy like Macy's or as massive as Sears, but it had a kind of quiet charm that made it a favorite for families looking for style without overspending. Caldor built its reputation on being practical yet fashionable, positioning itself as the store where you could pick up what you needed: clothes, home goods, toys, or even small appliances, without feeling like you were settling for second best. Part of Caldor's appeal was its knack for staying on trend without inflating prices. In an era when polyester ruled the racks, Caldor offered wide-collared shirts, leisure suits, and flowing dresses that captured the decade's look, but kept budgets in mind. Parents could shop for back-to-school wardrobes without draining the family savings, and teens could find the pieces that helped them feel stylish without needing to trek to higher-end department stores. It was in essence affordable chic before that phrase ever became marketing gold, but Caldor wasn't just about fashion. Its aisles were filled with everything from cookware to curtains, giving households an accessible way to keep homes functional and modern. Seasonal shopping was especially strong. Whether it was Christmas decorations, patio furniture, or summer toys, Caldor became a trusted stop for the rhythms of the year. Families often wove it into their routines, stopping by on weekends or during errands, because it offered a little of everything at prices that felt fair. By the 1970s, Caldor was expanding, spreading through suburban plazas and smaller cities across the region. While it never reached the national dominance of Kmart or Sears, it carved out a loyal following that remembered it fondly, even after its eventual decline. For many, Caldor symbolized a time when department stores didn't have to be massive or glamorous to be meaningful. They just had to provide good value, a touch of style, and the reassurance that you could walk out looking sharp without emptying your wallet. Goldblatt's Chicago's working class favorite. If you grew up in Chicago during the 1970s, Goldblatt's was a name you knew as well as the corner diner or the neighborhood park. Founded in the early 20th century, Goldblatt's became a lifeline for working-class families who wanted quality goods without the department store markup. By the disco decade, Its sprawling locations across the city and suburbs had cemented it as the go-to place for affordable shopping, and its reputation for value and reliability made it a beloved Chicago institution. Walking into Goldblatt's in the 1970s was like entering a world where practicality ruled. Clothing racks were filled with sturdy, budget-friendly apparel. Household goods ranged from cookware to linens, and toys lined the shelves in eye-catching displays that thrilled children without costing a fortune. Unlike high-end department stores, Goldblatt's didn't aim for glamour or style. It aimed to serve families efficiently and affordably, and that mission resonated deeply in the city's working neighborhoods. Part of Goldblatt's charm was its accessibility. Many stores were located in easily reached urban districts, making them convenient for shoppers who relied on public transportation or neighborhood trips rather than long drives to suburban malls. Seasonal sales were legendary, and families often timed their visits to coincide with these events, stretching their dollars while still getting what they needed. For parents, Goldblatt's offered peace of mind, dependable products, fair prices, and a shopping experience that didn't feel intimidating. By the 1970s, Goldblatt's had firmly established itself as more than just a store. It was a community hub. Children grew up browsing its toy aisles. Teenagers found affordable fashion, and families stocked up on essentials all under one roof. While the wave of national chains and shopping malls would eventually challenge its dominance, Goldblatt's remains a nostalgic touchstone for Chicagoans. A reminder of a time when department stores served the people with practicality, heart, and a distinctly local flavor. Mervyn's California Cool on a Budget. In the sun-soaked suburbs of California during the 1970s, Mervyn's was the store that made everyday shopping feel effortlessly stylish. Founded in the early 1950s, it grew steadily throughout the West Coast, offering families a chance to update their wardrobes, homes, and lives without breaking the bank. By the disco decade, Mervyn's had earned a reputation as the go-to department store for middle-class shoppers who wanted quality, variety, and a touch of California flair, all at prices that made sense for a family budget. Walking into a Mervyn's store in the 1970s was a lesson in practicality meets style. Clothing racks brimmed with polyester skirts, wide-collared shirts, and vibrant patterns that mirrored the era's trends, but at a fraction of what high-end boutiques charged. Teenagers hunting for the latest fashions could find pieces that felt current, while parents could stock up on durable basics for the whole family. But Mervyn's wasn't just about clothes. Home goods, kitchenware, and seasonal items filled the shelves, creating a one-stop shopping experience that appealed to busy households. Part of Mervyn's charm was its California personality. Bright, open layouts and friendly service gave the stores a welcoming, laid-back vibe. Shopping there wasn't a chore. It was a casual outing that fit seamlessly into weekend routines. Families appreciated the convenience, while young adults enjoyed the chance to curate a wardrobe that felt fresh without overspending. By the late 1970s, Mervyn's had become a staple in suburban plazas and regional malls, known for blending affordability with trend consciousness. Though it never aimed to compete with luxury department stores, it succeeded in giving shoppers the best of both worlds, style and savings. For many Californians of that era, Mervyn's wasn't just a store. It was a reflection of the state's optimistic, budget-savvy, and always cool attitude. Prange's a Midwest legacy. In the heart of the Midwest, Prange's was more than a department store. It was a local institution. By the 1970s, the chain had been serving Wisconsin and neighboring states for decades, carving out a reputation for reliability, community focus, and a kind of understated charm that national chains often lacked. For families in smaller towns and suburban neighborhoods, Prange wasn't just a shopping destination, it was part of daily life, a place to browse, discover, and stock up on essentials while feeling connected to the local community. Prange's stores offered a wide range of goods from clothing and footwear to housewares and toys. In the 1970s, its clothing selection reflected the decade's trends: polyester suits, patterned blouses, and the ever-popular bell-bottoms, but always with a Midwest sensibility. Fashion was approachable, practical, and affordable, appealing to families who wanted style without extravagance. Beyond apparel, the store carried home furnishings, seasonal items, and small appliances, making it a convenient stop for households aiming to balance quality and budget. Part of Prange's appeal lay in its community presence. Stores were often located downtown or in neighborhood shopping centers, allowing shoppers to combine errands with social interaction. Sales events were eagerly anticipated, and children could be found exploring the toy aisles while parents shopped with confidence, knowing that the store offered dependable merchandise at fair prices. Prange wasn't flashy, but it was trusted, and in retail, trust often mattered more than glamour. By the disco decade, Prange had solidified its place in the Midwest's retail landscape. While national chains were expanding aggressively, Prange remained a local favorite, remembered for its accessibility, customer service, and connection to the communities it served. For those who grew up in its aisles, Prange wasn't just a store, it was a legacy, a reminder that sometimes the most enduring department stores are the ones that feel like part of the family. The Broadway West Coast fashion icon. On the West Coast, particularly in California, the Broadway was more than a department store, it was a fashion landmark. By the 1970s, it had earned a reputation for offering the latest trends at prices that middle-class families could manage, positioning itself as a stylish alternative to larger, more impersonal national chains. Its presence in downtown districts and growing suburban malls made it accessible to a wide audience, from teens hunting for the latest bell-bottoms to parents shopping for work clothes or home essentials. The Broadway excelled at blending affordability with trend consciousness. Clothing racks were filled with polyester suits, patterned dresses, and bold disco-era styles that allowed shoppers to feel fashionable without overspending. Accessories, shoes, and seasonal items complemented the apparel, making it easy for families to outfit themselves for school, work, or weekend outings. The store also carried housewares and small appliances, reinforcing its role as a convenient, one-stop shopping destination for the modern household. What really set the Broadway apart, though, was its sense of style and presentation. Store layouts were bright and inviting, displays emphasized color and coordination, and promotions often highlighted the latest fashion trends, giving shoppers a sense that they were participating in something current and exciting. Teenagers and young adults flocked to the Broadway not only for clothing but for the social experience, browsing with friends, discovering new styles, and enjoying the energy of a bustling retail environment. By the late 1970s, the Broadway had firmly established itself as a West Coast fashion icon. While national chains expanded aggressively, its regional focus and dedication to style made it a beloved destination for generations of Californians. For those who remember, the Broadway represented more than shopping. It was a place where fashion met community, and where affordability didn't mean sacrificing personality or flair. May Company a coast-to-coast powerhouse. By the 1970s, the May Company had become a retail titan, stretching its influence from coast to coast and earning a reputation as a dependable department store for millions of American families. Founded in the late 19th century and expanding aggressively throughout the mid-20th century, May Company prided itself on offering a mix of fashion, home goods, and specialty items that appealed to a broad audience. Its stores were often anchors in suburban shopping centers and downtown districts alike, making it a familiar and trusted presence across the country. Walking into a May Company store in the disco decade meant stepping into a space that balanced accessibility with quality. Clothing racks featured everything from polyester suits and disco-inspired dresses to practical workwear, while accessories, shoes, and cosmetics completed the offerings. Home goods and small appliances were neatly displayed, making it easy for shoppers to outfit their homes and families in one trip. What set May Company apart was its ability to provide style and functionality without the intimidation or price tag of higher-end department stores. May Company also had a strong focus on community and customer experience. Stores hosted seasonal promotions, fashion shows, and holiday events that drew crowds and made shopping feel festive. Families could rely on friendly service and consistent quality, turning routine shopping trips into predictable yet enjoyable outings. For children, the toy departments were an oasis of colorful games and dolls, sparking excitement during back-to-school and holiday seasons. By the 1970s, May Company's combination of reach, affordability, and reliability made it a coast-to-coast powerhouse in retail. While the rise of national discount chains and suburban malls introduced new competition, May Company remained a cornerstone for families seeking convenience, quality, and a touch of style. For those who grew up browsing its aisles, it was more than a store. It was a dependable presence in the everyday rhythm of American life. Hecht's a mid-Atlantic tradition. In the bustling cities and growing suburbs of the Mid-Atlantic, Hecht's was more than a department store. It was a cornerstone of everyday life. By the 1970s, this Washington, D.C.-based chain had earned a reputation for quality, reliability, and accessibility, making it a trusted shopping destination for families across Maryland, Virginia, and beyond. Hecht's combined practicality with a touch of regional pride, offering everything from clothing and accessories to housewares, toys, and seasonal items. Walking into a Hecht store in the disco decade was a sensory experience. The aisles were neatly arranged yet packed with merchandise that reflected the trends of the time. Polyester pants, flowing dresses, bold prints, and leisure suits that mirrored the era's exuberance. Home goods, cookware, and furniture complemented the apparel, creating a one-stop shopping experience that families appreciated. Even in the crowded departments, the atmosphere remained friendly and approachable, a reflection of Hecht's commitment to service and community connection. Hecht's was also deeply woven into the region's cultural fabric. Seasonal events, holiday displays, and back-to-school promotions transformed shopping into a shared experience, drawing families together and creating memories beyond mere purchases. Its toy departments became temporary wonderlands for children, while teens and young adults found clothing that allowed them to stay fashionable without overspending. Parents, meanwhile, trusted the store for its dependable quality and fair pricing, making it a practical choice for the working and middle-class households that comprised its primary customer base. By the late 1970s, Hecht's had solidified its status as a mid-Atlantic tradition. While retail trends were shifting towards sprawling malls and national discount chains, Hecht's maintained its reputation as a dependable, community-centered department store. For those who grew up in its aisles, it represented more than shopping. It was a place where style, value, and local pride converged in a welcoming, accessible way. Younkers Iowa's retail crown jewel. In the heartland of America, Younkers stood as a beacon of shopping excellence, proudly earning its reputation as Iowa's retail crown jewel. By the 1970s, the chain had grown beyond its Des Moines roots to serve communities across the Midwest, becoming a trusted name for families seeking quality, variety, and a touch of elegance without the sky-high prices of coastal department stores. Younkers was more than a store. It was a gathering place, a hub where shopping trips were as much about experience as about merchandise. Walking through a Younkers store in the disco decade was a lesson in balance. Clothing racks showcased the era's bold styles, polyester suits, wide-collared shirts, and flowing dresses, alongside practical workwear and children's apparel, making it easy for every family member to find something that suited both taste and budget. Accessories, footwear, and cosmetics completed the fashion lineup, while home goods, cookware, and seasonal items filled out the store's expansive footprint. The experience was designed to be convenient, yet indulgent, letting shoppers feel pampered without overspending. Younkers also excelled at community engagement. Seasonal promotions, holiday events, and in-store displays made every visit an occasion. Children flocked to the toy sections during back-to-school and holiday seasons, while parents appreciated dependable quality and attentive service. For many Midwestern families, a trip to Younkers wasn't just about buying, it was about participating in a shared cultural rhythm, a touchstone of everyday life. By the late 1970s, Younkers had solidified its place as a Midwest institution. While national chains were expanding rapidly, the store's local roots, customer focus, and consistent offerings made it a beloved destination. For those who remember its aisles, Younkers represented the ideal department store. Dependable, welcoming, stylish, and deeply connected to the communities it served. Steinbach boardwalk shopping in style. For shoppers along the Jersey Shore and parts of the Mid-Atlantic, Steinbach was a department store that captured the spirit of seaside style with the convenience of everyday shopping. By the 1970s, Steinbach had established itself as a regional favorite, offering an array of clothing, housewares, toys, and seasonal items that catered to families seeking both fashion and practicality. Its stores often reflected a breezy, approachable aesthetic that mirrored the relaxed charm of coastal life, making each shopping trip feel like a small escape from the routine. The clothing selection at Steinbach was especially notable. In the disco decade, racks featured polyester slacks, patterned blouses, flowing dresses, and leisure suits that kept pace with national trends while remaining budget-conscious. Teenagers could hunt for the latest styles, parents could outfit the family efficiently, and children found delight in vibrant toy sections. The store also stocked home goods, kitchenware, and seasonal decor, creating a one-stop shopping experience that balanced style, utility, and affordability. What set Steinbach apart was its local flavor and sense of personality. The stores were often designed with a welcoming, easy-to-navigate layout, and the staff emphasized friendly, attentive service. Seasonal promotions and displays brought energy and visual flair to the aisles, while its locations near boardwalks and bustling shopping areas made Steinbach part of a broader community experience. Families would stop in during vacations, weekends, or errands, enjoying both the merchandise and the atmosphere. By the late 1970s, Steinbach had earned a loyal following, remembered fondly as a store that combined coastal charm with practical shopping. While national chains expanded and discount stores proliferated, Steinbach remained a regional treasure. For those who grew up visiting its aisles, it wasn't just a place to shop. It was a local landmark where style met community, and shopping became a genuinely enjoyable outing. Sakowitz, Texas, luxury retail. In the sprawling cities of Texas, Sakowitz stood out as a department store synonymous with elegance and sophistication. By the 1970s, this Houston-based retailer had cultivated a reputation for offering high-quality merchandise that blended the glamour of big city shopping with a distinctly Texan flair. While most department stores catered primarily to practicality or mass appeal, Sakowitz specialized in style and refinement, attracting shoppers who sought luxury, fashion-forward clothing, and premium home goods without leaving the state. Walking into a Sakowitz store in the disco decade was an experience in itself. The clothing departments featured designer-inspired suits, flowing dresses, and the bold patterns of the era, while accessories and shoes complemented the apparel with an air of understated glamour. Men's and women's fashion alike reflected both current trends and timeless elegance, making the store a destination for those who valued sophistication. Beyond clothing, Sakowitz offered high-end furniture, housewares, and decorative items that appealed to customers seeking quality and style for their homes. Sakowitz also distinguished itself through its presentation and service. Store layouts were spacious and thoughtfully arranged. Displays were polished, and staff were attentive, knowledgeable, and friendly, creating an environment that encouraged leisurely browsing and confident purchasing. Holiday displays and seasonal promotions added a festive touch, making shopping at Sakowitz a memorable event rather than a routine errand. By the 1970s, Sakowitz had become a Texas institution for families and fashion-conscious individuals alike. While national chains and discount retailers expanded aggressively, Sakowitz carved out its niche as the state's premier luxury department store. For those who remember, it represented more than merchandise. It was a statement of style, refinement, and regional pride, proving that even in the Lone Star State, luxury could be accessible and distinctly Texan. Miller and Rhoads' Southern Charm in Virginia. In the heart of Virginia, Miller and Rhoads was more than a department store. It was a symbol of Southern hospitality and style. By the 1970s, this Richmond-based retailer had become a fixture in the community, known for its elegant merchandise, attentive service, and a shopping experience that balanced tradition with the trends of the disco decade. Families visiting Miller and Rhoads didn't just buy clothes or home goods. They stepped into a space where shopping felt leisurely, personal, and distinctly Southern. The store's clothing departments reflected the era while maintaining a sense of refinement. Polyester dresses, wide-collared shirts, and leisure suits shared space with timeless staples, ensuring that shoppers of all ages could find what they needed. Accessories, shoes, and cosmetics complemented the apparel offerings, while home goods and seasonal decor filled out the store, making it a one-stop destination for families. Teenagers and young adults could browse the latest fashion trends, children marveled at colorful toys, and parents appreciated practical yet stylish options for the home. What truly set Miller and Rhoads apart was its atmosphere. Spacious aisles, polished displays, and helpful staff created an environment that felt welcoming and genteel, a reflection of Southern charm in every interaction. Holiday events, Fashion shows and in-store promotions made shopping a social occasion, connecting the store to the rhythms of community life. For many Virginians, a trip to Miller and Rhoads was an experience to savor, not just a task to complete. By the 1970s, Miller and Rhoads had cemented its reputation as a Southern retail treasure. While national chains and suburban malls expanded, the store thrived by offering elegance, personal service, and a sense of place. For those who remember wandering its aisles, Miller and Rhoads represented the ideal Southern department store. Stylish, welcoming, and unmistakably charming. Riches, Atlanta's beloved landmark. In Atlanta, Riches wasn't just a department store. It was a city landmark woven into the everyday lives of locals and visitors alike. By the 1970s, it had earned a reputation for quality, style, and community presence, offering everything from clothing and accessories to home goods and seasonal items. For generations of Atlantans, shopping at Riches was more than a chore. It was a shared cultural experience, a place where families gathered, milestones were marked, and traditions, like the legendary holiday displays, were born. Walking into Riches during the disco decade was an immersive experience. Clothing racks showcased the era's bold styles, polyester dresses, leisure suits, and vibrant prints, alongside practical apparel for work and school. Accessories, shoes, and cosmetics complemented the fashion selection, while home goods, kitchenware, and seasonal decor made it easy for families to outfit their homes in one visit. Children marveled at the toy department, teens hunted for the latest trends, and parents appreciated the store's combination of style and affordability. Riches was also renowned for its sense of occasion. Its holiday window displays became a city-wide attraction, drawing crowds from across Atlanta, while in-store events, fashion shows, and sales created excitement year-round. The store's welcoming atmosphere, attentive staff, and thoughtful layout reinforced its reputation as a community-centered shopping destination where personal service and local pride went hand in hand. By the late 1970s, Riches had solidified its place in Atlanta's heart. While national chains expanded aggressively, Riches maintained its identity as a beloved local institution. For those who remember its aisles, it represented more than merchandise. It embodied a sense of city pride, tradition, and style, standing as a true landmark in both the physical and cultural landscape of Atlanta. Loveman's, a Tennessee treasure. In Tennessee, Loveman's was more than a department store. It was a cherished local institution. By the 1970s, the chain had earned a reputation for offering quality merchandise, friendly service, and a shopping experience that blended practicality with a touch of elegance. For families in Birmingham, Memphis, and surrounding communities, Loveman's wasn't just a place to buy clothes or household goods. It was a gathering spot, a reliable presence, and a source of local pride. The store's aisles were stocked with a wide variety of items that reflected both everyday needs and the trends of the era. Shoppers could find polyester dresses, leisure suits, and patterned blouses alongside practical workwear and children's apparel. Accessories, shoes, cosmetics, and home goods rounded out the offerings, making it possible to outfit the entire family or refresh the home in a single visit. Seasonal displays and promotions added excitement, turning routine shopping trips into memorable experiences. What set Loveman's apart was its commitment to community and customer service. Store layouts were inviting, staff were attentive and knowledgeable, and families felt welcome regardless of the size of their purchase. Children gravitated toward the toy aisles. Teens explored the latest fashions, and parents could shop with confidence, knowing that quality and value were built into every aisle. It was a department store that understood its customers and reflected the rhythms of local life. By the 1970s, Loveman's had solidified its place as a Tennessee treasure. While national chains and suburban malls began to dominate the retail landscape, Loveman's remained a beloved regional favorite. For those who remember shopping there, it represented more than merchandise. It was a symbol of community, reliability, and the enduring charm of a local department store that knew its people and their needs. McCrory's, the dime store that grew big. Before big box retailers and online shopping, there was McCrory's, a chain that started as a humble dime store and grew into a beloved institution across America. By the 1970s, McCrory's had firmly established itself as a place where everyday shoppers could find almost anything at affordable prices, from household essentials and clothing to toys and stationery. Its appeal lay in its simplicity, straightforward shopping, low prices, and the thrill of discovering a bargain around every corner. Walking through a McCrory's in the disco decade was like stepping into a microcosm of American life. The aisles were packed with practical goods, seasonal items, and the occasional novelty that made browsing an adventure. Children flocked to the toy sections, marveling at action figures, dolls, and games, while parents stocked up on home necessities without straining the family budget. Clothing selections were modest but dependable, reflecting both everyday needs and the trends of the 1970s, from polyester shirts and leisure suits to simple casual wear. McCrory's charm wasn't just in its products, it was in the experience. The stores were accessible, often located in urban neighborhoods and smaller towns where convenience mattered. Shoppers appreciated the no-frills environment, friendly staff, and the sense that every visit offered a little excitement and discovery. Seasonal promotions, back-to-school sales, and holiday displays turned routine shopping trips into small celebrations, reinforcing McCrory's role as a fixture in the rhythms of family life. By the late 1970s, McCrory's had grown far beyond its dime store origins, yet it retained the spirit of affordability and community that made it special. For those who remember its aisles, McCrory's wasn't just a store. It was a place of opportunity, surprises, and practical shopping, proving that even the humblest beginnings could evolve into something memorable and enduring. Those were 30 department stores that shaped shopping in the 1970s. Places full of memories, bargains, and community charm. Do you remember any of them? Share your favorite memories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this stroll down retail history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more nostalgic trips into the past.